I've been both looking forward to and dreading the prospect of reviewing Swingtime since I started this series. Partly that's because this is in many ways my absolute favorite Fred and Ginger film. Partly because it includes one scene that's supposed to be well-meaning but is absolutely cringeworthy. Fred wanted to pay homage to his friend and mentor, Bill Robinson. If you know anything about Bill Robinson, you'll know that his contribution to American culture is great and also very problematic. Fred made the very misguided decision to do this homage in blackface. I've seen this movie so many times I reach reflexively for the fast forward button every time the scene approaches. But as a friend of mine once said, if you're looking at a beautiful sunset and there is a hot pile of garbage in it, you have to describe both. So with my deep discomfort with this scene noted, I'm going to start talking about the sunset. My mother tried to explain her context for these films. She had come to California like a John Steinbeck runaway. They were fleeing Dust Bowl, Oklahoma, and so California seemed like this green paradise. For my mother and grandparents, Fred and Ginger movies were a greener paradise. Swingtime comes within a hair's breadth of being a truly heartbreaking film, and it manages to be a fun ride from start to finish. It floats in this divine realm, somewhere between impish and tragic, and it gets the best of both worlds. Class difference hangs over the entire film. Fred plays Lucky, a penniless dancer dressed in stage costume finery, and he navigates a world where crooks own restaurants, cops make arrests based on clothing, and the actual upper class are only shown as cartoonish fops. Fred almost joins them. He's a touring dancer who gets engaged to an heiress. Only money can overcome their differences. Her family doesn't like the match, but neither do his buddies in the chorus line. You might recognize Fred's dance troupe as the band from Flying Down to Rio. Ooh, studio system. A born gambler, Lucky hops on a freight train to New York along with his manager, Pops, on the promise that if he makes enough money, he can come home and get the girl. It's a rom-com setup so transcendent and so transactional, it hurts. So it's no surprise when a few minutes later he gets upset by Lucky crossing paths with Penny. Yes, Lucky and Penny, who thinks he's trying to rip her off for a quarter. Financial worries saturate this Great Depression flick.
Keep up the good work, boys. The public is with you.
The most direct nod to the country's financial woes is also the movie's best dance number.
Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, start all over again.
Listen, no one could teach you to dance in a million years. Take my advice and save your money.
Miss Carroll, get your things and go.
But I...
Get out.
But through his hard-earned dancing skills and a spark of chemistry, Lucky gets Penny's job back for her.
Oh, how did you say that last step went? Oh, yes.
This trick also earns him a gig at a swanky club. So then he has to gamble to win clothes that are good enough to perform in. I mean, you get the idea. On the one hand, the film is an adorable rom-com. On the other hand, it's a commentary on the roller coaster ride every working-class American in the 1930s was thrown into. We fantasize because of the costumes and the sets, but we ache because of the destitution that's just around the corner.
Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, start all over again.
Lucky spends most of the movie trying not to make the money he needs to go home and marry his fiancée. Fred and Ginger have a pair of sidekicks. Helen Broderick is back after Top Hat, and though she doesn't get as much material as before, she is still thoroughly enjoyable. Victor Moore, who plays Fred's magician buddy and causes lots of trouble, takes a little getting used to, but his alcoholic mumbling works in its way. It may be the absence of the absurd Edward Everett Horton that let this movie float above the earlier movies as a truly, deeply romantic film, or it may be the intrinsically tragic plot in the sense that these two people need to be together, but they can't ever be together. Out of all the Fred and Ginger movies, this is the one where I feel like they're not really going to win. Lucky and Penny endure adventure after adventure in the Depression-era New York. They gamble their way into the ownership of the nightclub. They go for a long weekend at a snowy lodge. The story gives them space to breathe, and they slowly fall desperately in love. Along the way, we get several of the best dance scenes that Astaire and Rogers ever filmed. Never Gonna Dance and Pick Yourself Up are classics. But then there's Waltz and Swingtime and A Fine Romance, which is on the short list of the best songs they ever recorded, or anybody recorded for that matter. When finally faced with the fact that Fred has promised to marry another woman, Ginger accepts the advances of her preening suitor.
Does she dance very beautifully?
Who?
The girl you're in love with.
Yes. Very.
The girl you're engaged to. The girl you're going to marry.
Oh, I don't know.
Now, both engaged to people they don't love, Fred delivers the only song more tragic than They Can't Take That Away From Me.
I'm left without my penny. The wolf was not smart. He left me my heart and soul. I cannot go for anything but the La Belle, la perfectly swell romance. Never gonna dance, never gonna dance, only gonna love you. Never gonna dance.
After he sings, they proceed to rip your heart out and dance on it. They walk together, they twirl together. You can feel the sexual tension. It's like in The Gay Divorcee, but there's a level of deeply planted love that makes it just hurt. Ginger was bleeding her shoes by the end of this number, and thank you, Ginger, it was worth it. Lucky and Penny do end up together, of course, thanks to a wacky trick recalled in the opening moments of the film, which makes for nice closure. But if the movie had closed 10 minutes earlier, it could have been Best Picture material. Swingtime is not a perfect film. Top Hat is, but in my opinion, Swingtime is the one film where Astaire and Rogers were allowed to blend the perfection of their craft with real human emotion. While the comedy is there, and it's a pretty light film, it doesn't get distracted with exploitation, it challenges Top Hat as the best Astaire-Rogers film. In my opinion, it wins.